Hey guys, so welcome to Tutorbox Live in conjunction with COVID-19 courses. I am your Tutorbox English tutor. So who am I? My name's Andrea and I'm a second year BCom law student studying at WITS. Now whether your goal is to just pass English or to get a good mark, to get into the course you want to do at university, I can help you either way. Now I'm sure you guys can all agree with me that English is important in every aspect of life. Work, university life, you need to know how to write emails, you need to know how to write essays, you need to know how to do speeches. You don't want to sound like a fool. I mean, you want to sound like you know what you're doing, when you're writing your essays. You're going to be taken seriously if you develop those English skills. And I'm gonna help you develop those English skills. So today is for grade 12. So what's up? We're gonna be doing comprehension skills. So I'm gonna give you guys good tips. I got some good tips that helped me achieve a good mark in English in high school. Then we're just gonna go through some examples/exercises from past papers. And then also start off with a worksheet just to introduce you guys to basic comprehension listening skills. So I'll read out a passage, you guys just listen, or you can read it yourselves and then answer some basic questions on the worksheet. Okay guys, so today we're going to look at what is comprehension and why is it tested, tips on how to answer comprehension type questions, and some exercises. So what is comprehension and why is it tested? Comprehension is the ability to understand something. Teachers want to see that you can read a passage and interpret what it is. A tip is to answer how you think the teacher would want you to answer the question. It's usually the most obvious interpretation that they want. So I think it's best if we start off with some tips on how to answer comprehension questions. These tips really got me through high school. I've developed and accumulated them over the years. So these are my own tips from high school, based on English comprehension questions. So the first tip is to give full answers. For example, if the question is, what did Sam like to do on a Saturday afternoon? Answer the question like this: Sam liked to paint on a Saturday afternoon. Instead of just giving a short answer like paint or he liked to paint, try and incorporate the question when you're answering as much as possible. The second tip is to base your answer on facts only. Try and avoid adding your opinion unless it's asked for. Then obviously you should add your opinion. The third tip is to try and understand the gist of the passage. If there are some words or sentences that you don't understand, whatever you do, just don't let it throw you off. You should look at the passage as a whole and try and understand the main message it is trying to convey. So the fourth tip is to decide on a method that you want to use for reading the passage. Some students prefer to read the whole passage first and then look at the questions. This method works just fine. However, my preferred method is to read through the questions and then the passage. This way, in the back of my mind, I'll know what I'm looking for when I read the passage. The fifth tip is time management. This is very important. You must always look at the mark allocation. If the question is for 2 marks, it should only be about a sentence or 2 sentences long. You should spend more of your time on longer questions. Practicing past papers will also assist in managing your time when answering questions. The second last tip is to answer the easiest questions first. Some questions will obviously be easier than others. You should answer these first and don't spend too much time on them, and then leave the harder questions for last. And leave most of your time for the harder questions. The last and final tip is to read the passage properly. Whatever you do, the worst thing to do is to read some of the passage and then assume that you know what it's about without fully reading it. And now for my favorite tip, guys. Pretend that you're a British person from the 1900s who wears a top hat and drinks expensive wine. You should use proper English. Do not use any slang words. Remember to use punctuation properly. Avoid using contractions as much as possible, such as don't, can't, or it's. Rather use do not, cannot, and it is where applicable. Channel your inner British person from the 1900s. It'll do you favors, I promise. Now, guys, when I say pretend you're a British person, I don't mean a British person like, oh, it's a nice day, isn't it? Not that type of British person, guys. The classy, sophisticated British person from the 1900s who speaks like this. Okay? Not like this. So in any case, guys, we're going to move on and do a worksheet now. Just a very basic introduction worksheet. I'm going to read the passage to you. You can listen to my soothing voice, or you can read it for yourself. And then we're going to answer some basic questions just to test that you were paying attention and that you can pull out the correct answers from the text. Okay? You can do it! So the title of this article is Promoting Careers in Cybersecurity. Cybersecurity is a promising career field for young people entering the workforce who want to make a difference, and there are many opportunities for girls in cyber. It's important work for our national security, and yet, according to the latest cybersecurity jobs report by Cybersecurity Ventures, we will have a 3.5 million people deficit of qualified cybersecurity professionals by 2021. In an attempt to do their part to make this field visible and reachable to young women, the Girl Scouts of the USA teamed up with Palo Alto Networks to introduce 18 new badges focused on cybersecurity in the spring of 2017, paving the way for Girl Scouts in K-12 to explore opportunities in STEM while developing the problem-solving and leadership skills traditional to the Girl Scouts program. Sylvia Acevedo, Chief Executive Officer, Girl Scouts of the USA, says, "At Girl Scouts of the USA, we recognize that in our increasingly tech-driven world, future generations must possess the skills to navigate the complexities and inherent challenges of the cyber realm. From arming our older girls with the tools to address this reality, to helping younger girls protect their identities via internet safety. The launch of our National Cybersecurity Badge Initiative represents our advocacy of cyber preparedness, and our partnership with Palo Alto Networks makes a natural fit for our efforts. It is our hope that our collaboration will serve to cultivate our troops' budding interest in cybersecurity by providing access to invaluable knowledge that may otherwise not be available to girls in communities across the United States." Mark D. McLaughlin, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Palo Alto Networks, agrees. "Our mission to prevent cyber attacks and restore trust in the digital age is only achievable if we make the meaningful investments, not just in technology but also in people. Our collaboration with Girl Scouts of the USA to develop curriculum for the first ever national cybersecurity badges will positively influence the future of our industry by helping build tomorrow's diverse and innovative team of problem solvers equipped to counter emerging cyber threats. This partnership and the opportunity it brings to young women may help alleviate an alarming statistic that only 11% of the world's cybersecurity workforce are women. According to the Computing Technology Industry Association, this dearth of women in technology fields can be attributed largely to them not knowing what opportunities are available to them. A study by technology and innovation leader Raytheon confirms this, noting that less than half of high school students have been approached by a parent, teacher, or guidance counselor about their education or career in cybersecurity. Do you have an interest in cybersecurity and you aren't sure where to start? Visit the National Cybersecurity Alliance online and check out their Parent Primer for guiding kids to careers in cybersecurity. It's full of excellent resources to help you and your parents learn more about careers in cybersecurity and how you can embark on one. So now I'm going to read through some questions with you guys. I'll read them and then give you some time afterwards to answer them. They're just basic starting off questions that test your listening skills, so listening comprehension. So the answers will be pulled directly from the text. So yeah, it's basically just an introduction to see that you guys can pull the direct answers out of the passage that we've just read. So question 1. According to the Cybersecurity Jobs Report by Cybersecurity Ventures, we will have a deficit of 3.5 million cybersecurity professionals by what year? The second question is, what steps has the Girl Scouts of the USA taken to introduce girls to cybersecurity? Third question, who has the Girl Scouts of the USA teamed up with? The fourth question is, Mark D. McClellan, Chairman and Chief Executive Officer of Palo Alto Networks, said that in order to restore trust in the digital age, we have to make meaningful investments in what? Fifth question, what percentage of the world's cybersecurity workforce are women? Number 6, why is it believed that there aren't more women in the cybersecurity field? Number 7, who did the study that confirmed young women are not being approached about an education or career in cybersecurity? And the last question is, where can you go to get more information about a career in cybersecurity? Okay guys, so we're just going to go through the answers now. These can be directly extracted from the passage that we just read. So the first answer is year 2021. So Cybersecurity Ventures will have a deficit of 3.5 million cybersecurity professionals by 2021. The second answer is they have introduced 18 new cybersecurity badges. So question number 3 was, who has the Girl Scouts of the USA teamed up with? The answer is Palo or Palo. I'm not really sure how to say it, but Palo Alto Networks is the answer. So the meaningful investments mentioned in question 4, the answer is people. Fifth question, which is what percentage of the world's cybersecurity workforce are women? The answer is 11%. So number 6 is why is it believed that there aren't more women in the cybersecurity field? The answer is because they aren't aware of the opportunities. So for number 7 is who did the study? The answer is Raytheon. The final answer, number 8, is the National Cybersecurity Alliance Online. So guys, that is the worksheet done. One thing I do want to say about the worksheet is that this was like more listening comprehension, so this is what you would answer for listening comprehension. When it comes to actual exams and written comprehension, I just want to say that you shouldn't quote the passage directly. You should put it in your own words to show that you've interpreted the passage that you've read for the comprehension questions. So yeah, that's the only thing I can say about that. So just remember that this worksheet was just to test listening comprehension because that I think is an important starting point. So yeah, and the best way to learn English is through exercising, looking at examples, and practicing. So now we're just going to move on to the actual examples from past papers. That'll really help. So guys, I'm just going to read through each slide paragraph questions and then give you some time to answer it and then give you the answer slide by slide. So the title of the article used where I got the paragraphs from is called Cultural Appropriation. So the first paragraph reads, in sections of the media concerned with representation and social justice, it seems we can barely endure a week without newsworthy incidents about cultural appropriation. While examples of cultural appropriation can be found in just about any cultural facet or artifact, the true complexity of cultural appropriation is often not fully appreciated or sufficiently articulated. So the first question based on the paragraph I just read is, state in your own words the point the writer is making in this paragraph. That's worth 2 marks. So the second paragraph reads, as a Nigerian, I could easily empathize. A few years ago, the popular English chef, Jamie Oliver, came out with his own recipe for jollof rice, a West African dish. While West Africans themselves often debate who makes the best rice, many all over the diaspora took to the internet to reject Jamie Oliver's recipe and let him know, thanks, but no thanks. If jollof is to be the international sensation it ought to be, it will not be Jamie Oliver who makes it so. So the question based on this paragraph is, suggest why the writer includes the aside, thanks but no thanks. This is for 3 marks. So the first question states for you to state the point the writer is making in the first paragraph. So this is such a common question. The main thing that you need to do is look at the paragraph as a whole and point out the purpose of the paragraph and the overall meaning of it. So the answer for number one is cultural appropriation is a popular topic in the media. That's one answer. You could also say it is a complex issue, or you could also say it's not fully discussed, or you could say it's not understood. So that's the overall purpose or meaning of the paragraph. And the point, you have to look at the point the writer is trying to get across to the reader. So, in my opinion, the best answer would be that it's a complex issue. So, this is a complex issue because of the way the writer says that the true complexity of the cultural appropriation is often not fully appreciated. It just shows you that cultural appropriation is not fully understood. So I think that, in my opinion, would be the main point that the writer is trying to make in this paragraph. So because the tone is overall unimpressed and disappointed, you should gather that the phrase thanks but no thanks in this context is sort of sarcastic. So the answer is that the writer is dismissive of, or sarcastic towards, or politely rejects foreign chefs appropriating African dishes and presenting them as their own. The West Africans jealously guard their recipes, and it should not be their right to make them internationally popular. A foreign chef should not be appropriating Nigerians' dishes. Okay, so the third paragraph reads, for those speaking from positions of power, the idea of cultural appropriation may be seen as an affront to their historical liberty to participate in cultures freely, a liberty that has often resulted in everything from cultural annihilation and loss to colonization. That history occurred the way it did has set us up for a cultural moment in which exchange between cultures cannot be viewed as simply occurring in a vacuum. This fact is certainly lost on novelist Lionel Shriver, who recently gave one of the most culturally tone-deaf speeches at the Brisbane Festival. So the question that goes along with this paragraph, number 3, is how does the language used in this paragraph indicate the writer's attitude towards cultural appropriation? This is for 3 marks. The fourth question is based on the fourth paragraph, which reads, Shriver's words were nothing short of uneducated, lacking in empathy, and an intentional misappropriation of the concept. In her address, Shriver commented, I hope that the concept of cultural appropriation is a passing fad, and went on to wear a sombrero, while staking out her claim to do so and discussing how writers of fiction are entitled to imagine the lives of others. Her argument suggested that awareness and cognizance of cultural appropriation would mean that fiction writers lose this right. The fourth question is critically comments on Shriver's hope that cultural appropriation is a passing fad. This is also for 3 marks. So, how I would answer number three, I would start by saying that the language that the writer uses emphasizes his opposition towards the idea of cultural appropriation. Just to sort of tie it all in together, if you pay attention to the specific language, like it's asking you to in the paragraph, you can see that the terms that he uses are very assertive, and that the language used is very against cultural appropriation. So the writer uses strong assertive expressions such as cultural annihilation and loss to colonization to display his criticism slash rejection of the practice. He acknowledges the importance of culture. This can be seen when he says cultures cannot be viewed as simply occurring in a vacuum, and accuses Shriver of being culturally insensitive. This can also be seen when he says this fact is certainly lost on novelist Lionel Shriver. He is also has contempt towards people like her, where he describes her as culturally tone deaf. You can kind of pick up on the hate towards and how he is derisive of her. When speaking about the writer's attitude to cultural appropriation, you can just speak about how he acts towards Lionel Shriver, and speak about how he has contempt towards people who are culturally insensitive, and that he is derisive of them. Yeah, his attitude towards cultural appropriation is that he is very against it, um, strongly against it by looking at the language that is used. So for question four, this is also a common question when they say critically comment. So critically comment on Shriver's hopes that cultural appropriation is a passing fad. Mainly look at Shriver's attitude and opinion about how she feels towards cultural appropriation by saying this sentence. So for me specifically, um, I, I picked out that the fact that she referred to cultural appropriation as a fad um, automatically points out that she does not take cultural appropriation seriously, and that by not taking cultural appropriation seriously, she is technically defending cultural insensitivity. She is unaware of the impact of cultural appropriation and appears oblivious of the disrespect imposed on cultural groups.
It's not a matter of whether or not we can. Everybody can, but not everybody will. How to turn nothing into something. How tangible are ideas and imagination? Ideas that become so powerful in your mind and your consciousness, they seem real to you even before they become tangible. Imagination that is so strong that you can actually see it. You can actually see it. If somebody cannot see it when it is not here, then it will never be here. Start looking into the future of what you would like to accomplish, where you would like to go, the person you would like to be. Decide what you want, and then act as if you already had it. And that is to believe that what you imagine is possible for you. So the first step is to imagine what's possible. Second step, to believe. Now here's the third step, and that is to go to work and make it real. You now go to work and make it a movement. You make it tangible. You make it viable. You breathe life into it, and then you construct it.
You have a lot to offer. The fact that you're still here means that your business is not through yet. People don't do what they know in life, but what they do is they operate within the context of the vision they have of themselves.
So write and draw and build and play and dance and live as only you can. Make up your own rules. The rules on what is possible and impossible were made by people who had not tested the bounds of the possible by going beyond them.
You must change what's possible for you. You, and only you, are the subject that impacts the burning desire in your imagination. You are living and feeling as if your future dreams are a present fact.
Will it be easy? No. Will it be challenging? Yes.
So you got to prepare yourself. You've got to develop yourself. As long as you're breathing, you got some more work to do. There's something else for you to achieve. Guess what? You're going to make some mistakes. You're going to make a lot of mistakes.
So now go and make interesting mistakes, make amazing mistakes, make glorious and fantastic mistakes, break rules, leave the world more interesting for your being here. Make good art.
It is possible to start with nothing and become something.
So guys, we're almost done. We're going to look at one more text. It's a poster. And then we're just going to answer, I think it's 3 questions on them. And then we're done. So push through.
Next question.
So this is the poster that the questions are based on. It says respect or theft. Cultural appropriation is the taking of cultural expressions, symbols, ceremonies, intellectual property, and ways of knowing from another culture for our own self-expression or use, while stripping them of their deeply rooted cultural identity and significance. It then all lists a whole bunch of words with crosses next to it saying deeply hurtful, disrespectful, enforces stereotypes, trivializes and erases history, makes real indigenous people invisible, and converts deep beliefs into shallow symbols. Cultural appropriation is the same as cultural theft. There is nothing cool, respectful, or fashionable about it. We can make better choices. So question 1 based on that poster is, the overall tone of text B is A. Flippant, B. Matter of fact, C. Dismayed, D. Resentful. The second question is, how does the image support the headline, respect or theft? And the last and final question is, makes real indigenous people invisible. Discuss the impact this statement is intended to have on the reader. As you can see with question 1, this is where vocabulary becomes important. This is why you guys must read often for leisure and definitely read your prescribed books for school. So the best way to do this is to go through A, B, C, and D and look at the meaning of each word. The overall tone of text B is A. Flippant. Flippant means to not show a serious or respectful attitude. B. Matter of fact simply means there's no opinion involved, it's facts. Dismayed means to cause someone to feel concern and distress. And D. Resentful means like hateful or expressing bitterness. Number 1, the answer is definitely D. We can rule out A because you can see by the poster the writer is very serious on the topic of cultural appropriation. B, matter of fact, it's not really matter of fact, it's more that this person has involved their opinion in creating the poster. Dismayed, I wouldn't say it's dismayed because the main aim of the poster is not to cause someone to feel stressed or anything like that. It's more resentful towards the concept of cultural appropriation. So the answer is D. For question 2, which is how does image support the headline respect or theft? So the woman in the image is very obviously not part of the culture of the headdress that she is wearing. So by wearing a headdress of another culture, the woman is trivializing a significant artifact or disrespecting a culture. So this would obviously be in line with the title of theft. Respect comes in because she could be doing this. She could be wearing the headdress of a different culture to show her admiration of the culture. So that's why the title matches with the picture, because we don't know what her aim is of wearing that headdress. Could be to show respect, or it could be because she is stealing this culture that she is not a part of. For question 3, it's the quote makes real people invisible, that it was on the text image previously shown. The question asks to discuss the impact that this statement is intended to have on the reader. So in other words, this means to discuss how this quote would make the reader feel. The statement alerts the reader to or creates awareness of the damage caused by cultural appropriation. The indigenous people become insignificant, aka invisible, when their artifacts are exploited. It is ironic that it is the artifacts and not the people that are celebrated. Okay guys, so that's the end of our lesson today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope it helped you. If you're confused about anything, or if you need more clarification on anything that we've done today, we're gonna have a Q&A session now, so please don't be afraid to ask any questions. Thanks guys.